Hi, everybody, and welcome to Open Mic Marketing with Liz Scott. I'm super glad that you could be with us today, and we're going to jump in shortly. Just going to give you a little bit of overview in terms of logistics for the call, because I see that there's some regular folks on the call and there's also some new people. So there's a couple of ways that people ask questions when we get together for open mic marketing sessions. You can actually raise your hand and ask a question live. So if you've got a question, raise your hand on the screen if you're calling in through your computer, and I will unmic you and answer your question live. Or you have the alternative to type it into the chat box and I will read it out anonymously, but still answer your question. And then we've got quite a few folks now who email me throughout the course of the month in between our sessions, and they have questions that they want to have asked, but aren't necessarily going to be unmiking for the actual live sessions. So a little bit about me. I spent 25 years as a sales and marketing VP in high tech and telecommunications. I am a certified business coach, and I'm really a business growth expert. So I work with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and small business owners to help them grow their businesses through implementing sales and marketing strategies. And recently I've started to work with people who run their own independent businesses, but they work under an umbrella brand. So think of people like Sun Life insurance agents or Investors Group agents, et cetera, because they're trying to really establish a unique presence within their overall corporation. So that's a little bit about my background, and today we're going to focus specifically on some sales questions that have come in. We are going to do some marketing questions at the end, but we are going to jump into some sales questions because although this is called Open Mic Marketing with Liz Scott, sales and marketing are often, as you know, highly connected, and the ultimate purpose of marketing is to get people to move through your funnel so that ultimately you're going to turn them into a client, and then hopefully you're going to even continue to have repeat or ongoing business with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about some sales questions. So let's jump in, and I will start with the first question, which was emailed into me, which is, do you have any specific techniques that you find will help improve my closing ratio? Do you have any specific techniques that you find will help improve my closing ratio? Okay, so let me just clarify for some new entrepreneurs that are on the call in case they're not clear what is meant by a closing ratio. So for every sales conversation that you have or sales meeting that you have where you actually make an offer for your product or service, that is an opportunity to close business, to close the sale, to get them to actually pay for what it is that you're offering. And so the standard close ratio for newer entrepreneurs is about 1 in 5. As you get more proficient and experienced with selling and you develop some techniques, then that ratio can potentially go up to a much higher. So it might be 2 out of 5, it might be 3 out of 5, whatever that looks like. So the question here is, what specifically can I do to help improve my close ratio? There's a number of things that you can do, and I am going to give you one technique, but specifically it's really just about practicing. Like the more sales conversations that you have, the better you're going to get at that, the more you're going to realize what works and resonates with your potential clients and what may not resonate with them so much. But one of the specific techniques that I've found to be highly effective is that We all have clients that say things like, I'm not sure I can afford it, let me think about it. I want to get back to you in a couple of days or a week or, whatever that is. I highly recommend, by the way, that if you can put some sort of limiter on it, that you do that. An ideal limiter would be 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes people are going on vacation or they need a little bit longer, but what that really means is that they're deferring making a decision. Because for whatever reason, they're just not clear that you have what they want to offer, or they really do have to check finances, or they want to check references or whatever. But the technique is called a double close, and it was not invented by me by any means, but I do find that it's an effective technique. So you want to try to close them when you're in front of them or have them on the phone. So you always want to try to close them right away. But if for some reason they give you, I'm not really sure, I need to check with my spouse, I need to think about it for a couple of days, then the double close really is to get back to them with an email format that reiterates all of the key points that you heard in your sales conversation and how you can help them. So you're reinforcing your close with, hey, Jane, I realized that we talked about the fact that you are struggling to lose 30 pounds and that you've tried to do it before and you're very frustrated, right? So you're reiterating and restating back to them all of the things that they told you in the sales conversation that their problems are, and then you reinforce the fact that you can really help them solve their problem. And the reason that I recommend the double close is because if they really are sitting on the fence, this might be enough to just push them towards saying, yeah, you know what, you're right. I did say all those things. I really do need the situation to be resolved, and I think that this is probably the person that can help me do that. It also keeps you really top of mind so that they don't necessarily go away for the 2 or 3 days and then forget about you. And it shows that you're interested in helping them solve their problem, right? You took the time to actually write an email to respond to them. So, as I mentioned, that technique is called the double close. It's not something that I personally invented, but I do find that it's highly effective. And hopefully that is clear to you guys. Okay, so the next question is that came in via email. I've been in business for 3 years and I don't have a formal CRM system. Should I get one? And if so, what do you recommend? Again, for those folks that are on the call, a CRM system is a customer or client relationship management system. So it's typically a way that you can track and communicate with your customer base. So, I have multiple responses to this question. I mean, I don't think that you need a formal CRM system. It really depends on how big your customer base is. I know people who use a pen and paper. I know people who have very elaborate Excel spreadsheets. I know people who use a software program. I don't really care what you use to keep in touch with your clients, but I do think that you need to track at some point, where are they in the sales funnel? And so a CRM system is an easy way to do that. You can also use an Excel spreadsheet, but the point is that you want to know, when did you speak to them last? When did you touch them last? What did you talk to them about last? And also, if, for example, they came back to you and said something like, this really isn't a good time for me, get in touch with me in 3 months, then you can put that into your system that you need to reach out to them within the 3-month period. If your customer base is really small, you don't necessarily want to get into a CRM system, but if you're planning on growing and you've got some initiatives in place, then I think that it's probably a good idea to do that. There's a couple of either free or very low outlay for cash for a couple of systems. One is called Albert.com, which has a pretty comprehensive free CRM system if your customer base is fairly low. And there's another one called Continuity.com, which is, a minimal fee on a monthly basis. So those are a couple of ideas for CRM. But you know what? I don't want you guys to go out and worry about implementing complicated software or programs if you're still in the early stages of your business and if your customer base is not that large. Once you start to get into a larger client base and you've got multiple products and services, or you've got repeat clients, then yeah, I think it's probably time to do that. So let me just open up the panel and see if there's any questions. I don't see any hands up yet, and do I see anything in the chat box? No. Okay, so I'm going to just continue to read some questions that people have sent in to me, and we will go from there. So the next one is, hi, I'm a new business owner in the holistic healthcare field. I really don't know what to say when someone says that they can't afford my services. I know that they really need what I have to offer, so should I discount my price? Okay, so that's a great question, and I actually get the question about discounting quite a bit. And so my first rule of thumb is no, I wouldn't discount, because A, you're selling yourself short, and B, what it probably means is one of two things. Either they really can't afford you, or you haven't really proved to them what the value is. So what is the value of using your services? So we talk, a lot about creating the gap. So what is the gap that we have? And where are they now, and where is it that they ultimately want to get to? And in between that is you being the bridge and you talking about the value of what it is that you have to offer. So I don't believe personally that you should start to discount right off the bat. What I would recommend is to continue to ask some probing questions. Now, if you're doing B2B and you're faced with corporate and they say, and they probably are not going to say they can't afford it. They're probably going to say something like, I don't have the budget for that this quarter, or that's not in my marketing budget, or that's not in my annual budget. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same thing. So what they're doing is really deferring it. They're deferring the decision. So, I always like my guys that I work with, and for those of you on the call, to have 2 or 3 probing questions ready and prepared to find out what is really going on. Is it really something that they can't afford, or, as I said, is it something that they don't see the perceived value in? So here's a question as an example that you can use. And you always want to say something like, when they say, what, I really can't afford it, or it's not in my budget, then you want to say something like, can I ask you a question about that? Because 99% of the time they're going to say, yeah, you can. And then you're going to say something like, if money wasn't an issue, is this something you would like to move forward with? And then they're going to say yes, no, or maybe. So if it's no, then you want to screen them out, because you're not doing yourself or them a service if they're sitting on the fence or they've already committed to a no. I mean, you probably want to ask some more questions about why is it a no, but let's just, for now, for this call, just say we're going to screen those people out. They might say maybe. And if they say maybe, say, okay, I'm curious to know, what would it take for us to work together? What would you need to get out of it for us to work together? Because when they're saying maybe, that's your signal, that's your cue that you haven't really shown them what the value is. And then the third option always is that they say something like, yeah, if money wasn't an issue, is this something you want to move forward with? Yes, it is. Okay, well, let's explore some options of how we can make this happen. Because they're clearly interested, but there is something going on. And it could just be that they don't have the cash flow or that they really just don't have the money. And that's where you want to get into a payment plan or, explore some options in terms of how can we make this work so that we can work together. And then and only then, you may want to look at discounting, particularly if you're in a B2B corporate situation. They may be actually the professional purchasing department may be looking for a discount. They may really have limited funds on either side, whether you're dealing with entrepreneurs, small business owners, or corporate. It may be that they literally only have a budget of a specific amount. So I hope that that answers the question, and it's pretty clear. But I get the fact that you're a new business owner and you're in the healthcare field. Sales is scary, right? It's scary to a lot of people, and it's uncomfortable. And so again, I go back to saying, just practice getting comfortable with having those sales conversations. And if you're nervous in the actual sales conversation, find a buddy or somebody who is in a similar industry, or a friend or a spouse or somebody, and just role play and practice those tough questions, because it is going to get easier and easier. I promise you. I know it can seem super painful a lot of times, but it absolutely will get easier. Okay, so the next one is in the chat box, and it is, hi, I'm new to selling and I don't really like it. Welcome to the club. That's probably the thing that most people who run their own businesses really don't like. So I'm new to selling and I really don't like it. Do you know of any good books or webinars to help me out with this? Okay, so that's a great question. And I absolutely do, and I will talk to you about them. There is a lot of great stuff out there. I will tell you that you kind of get what you pay for. So if everybody could learn to sell from a webinar or a book, I think that that would be a wonderful thing, but it's highly unlikely. So before I give you a couple of really good resources, one of the things that I do, and I just started a new program, which is a standalone program from some of the other ones that I run, and it's called Superstar Selling. And what it does is gives you a disc-like assessment of what your selling style is, and how that may be helping or hindering you within the sales process. So it's a 40-page report. It's scary accurate how good it is. I just developed this new program, and it is, as I said, a standalone program, but it does specifically work in conjunction with your behavior style, your personality style, what stage of business you're in, et cetera, et cetera. So I highly recommend for anybody who's on the call, if you're interested in finding out more about that assessment tool and taking that assessment, just email me at lscott@affinitycoach.com, lscott@affinitycoach.com, and let me know that you're interested in that, and then I'm happy to walk you through what that looks like. In the meantime, for newer entrepreneurs, Darren Harvey is a great resource. He's got a number of books. Probably the earliest and easiest one is The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. And it really doesn't matter if you're selling to small businesses or corporations. The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster is pretty much the same. He talks in broad strokes about selling, but it's more about overcoming the fear of selling than pragmatic answers in terms of these are some techniques and tools. If you're looking for techniques and tools, Jeffrey Gitomer has the Sales Bible. So Jeffrey Gitomer, the Sales Bible. It's an older sales book, but it's pretty comprehensive in terms of some techniques for selling. And it also helps to give you a little bit of clarity about maybe some blocks that you might be having. And that's the other thing that we work on in my Superstar Selling standalone program is we do some one-on-one work to talk about what your blocks are or what they could potentially be. And then the other one is How to Sell When No One is Buying. And this is a book, How to Sell When No One is Buying. And that's by Dave Lakhani, Lakhani, How to Sell When No One is Buying. And he's got some interesting points in that book because oftentimes it can feel that way. You can feel like, wow, I'm having lots of sales conversations and just nobody's buying. Or you might be going through a cycle. So there definitely are sales cycles. And so for me, for my business, the summertime can tend to be a bit slower. So it's nice to understand what your potential slow periods are so that you can really ramp up your marketing initiatives. Or you can choose to take your vacation at the same time. Like I know for my business, July is a lot of my clients go on vacation, a lot of my prospects go on vacation, a lot of my clients are women and they have children. So the children are off for the summer, so they don't want to commit to anything. So, it's important for you guys to understand what your own sales cycle is. But those are the three books I think would probably be best suited to you, just to give you some more information and another viewpoint into the whole area of sales. Okay, so let me check the dashboard and see where we are. Okay. So next question in is, hi Liz, I just don't seem to be closing as many clients as I think I should be. What can I do to improve this? I just don't seem to be closing as many clients as I think I should be. What can I do to improve this? Okay, so we've talked a lot and I'm not going to reiterate it. Practice is great. Analyzing your sales calls, if you can, is also super helpful. So let's say that you're doing an over-the-phone consultation for your sales call. If there's any way that you can record it on your iPad or, through doing a Skype call or something like that, it's always great to go back and replay them and analyze where it is that maybe you might be going into some pitfalls. Also, as I said, role play is also great. And one of the other areas that I've really started to work in as a result of doing these assessments and doing a deeper dive into the whole world of sales is that we tend to like to work with and to sell to people who have a similar sales style to us. So for example, if we look at a quadrant, so there's 4 quadrants, would you describe yourself as an action-oriented person? And if so, you probably like people who make very fast decisions. On the top part of the quadrant is the social/relationship seller. So do you like to buy and sell to people who you like? So do you typically want to have a whole, how was your weekend? What's going on? conversation, a few laughs before you actually even get into the sales conversation. Those kinds of people tend to buy more on a relationship basis. And then when we go down into the lower quadrants, that's where you get into people who are in the logical category. So those people will want lots of facts, right? They'll ask lots of questions, they'll want lots of facts, and chances are that they will not make a decision until they have studied and ruminated on all of the facts. And then the final quadrant is what I call the data people. So the data people may or may not ask a lot of questions and want a lot of details, but they also want things like industry studies or statistics or testimonials or references from previous clients. And so what happens is sometimes when we're not closing as much business as we actually think we should be, it's because we're missing the selling cues from the people who are in those quadrants. So let me use a personal example. My natural selling style is action-oriented and relationship-oriented, but much more about action-oriented. So I love people who know what they want to go after it, they're ready to take action, you know, they're going to jump in. That's my natural style. So what happens is I have to really concentrate and pull myself back if I start to deal with somebody who's logical or data oriented. So if somebody starts to bombard me because they're logical with a lot of detailed questions, that's outside of my natural style. But rather than rush through that and try to get them into action, I need to step back and step away from, hey, you know what, this is not personal. This is the way that they process information. So I need to address them. You've heard the expression, meet people where they're at. You want to meet people where they're at. So you want to address them in the style that they like. So again, I mean, there's lots of reasons why, and we don't have time to go into them all, but there's lots of reasons why you may not be closing business. But I ask you to take a look at, you know, some of the last 5 to 10 sales conversations that you've had, and do you find that you were in one of those quadrants and ignoring the other 3? Okay, so we have 2 minutes left, and we have one question left, and it is, how do I know if I have enough prospects in my sales funnel? That's an interesting question. You know, my initial thinking is, and I have a document if you're interested in it. I know that a lot of the people that are in my programs have already received it, but it's a one-pager that really asks you to take a look at how many sales meetings are you having? Well, how many prospects do you have? And from those prospects, how many sales meetings are you getting? And from the sales meetings, what's your conversion rate? Which actually takes us full circle to Bob's original question, which is, you know, do you have specific techniques to improve your closing ratio? So, you know, my response to that is really that it's all about the math, and you need to understand your calculation ratios. And if you don't understand them because you're new to the process, then email me and I'm happy to walk you through what that spreadsheet looks like, and we can go through that. So that's it for today for our Open Mic Marketing with Liz Scott. And as always, you know, I offer anyone who's interested can have a complimentary growth strategy session with me. If you're interested in learning more about the Superstar Sales Assessment, you can absolutely ping me. And I hope everybody has an amazing day and does good work and sells lots and lots of products and services. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.